Hey guys, Trevor Holt here. Today I'm here to present my Assignment 3 oral presentation for History and Philosophy of Psychology. My student ID number is 104743587. I chose to do my assignment on social identity theory, SIT, history and philosophy of psychology. So the article I chose was Turner, Brown and Tafu in 1979, an article titled Social Comparison and Group Interest in Group Favoritism. It was published in the European Journal of Social Psychology. So before we get started, I'd just like to dedicate this presentation to a current campaign I'm working on to create better outcomes in the National Fire Ant Eradication Program that currently is being managed in such a way it contravenes fundamental human rights, private property rights and individual choice of chemical exposure. So I'm hoping we can initiate change and create better outcomes in that program. So what is social identity theory? As discussed, it was developed by Henry Tafu and John Turner in that groundbreaking article in 1979, and it explains how individuals form part of their identity through group membership. So the core idea is people derive part of their self-concept from the social groups that they belong to, leading to in-group favoritism and out-group discrimination. And under certain circumstances, this can drive social change. The key ideas of social identity theory are in-group versus out-group dynamics, prejudice and discrimination, but also solidarity and collective action. So when describing history in psychology, it's important to understand and to recognise the spirit of the time and the spirit of the place. They use German words to describe this, and I apologise for my pronunciation. I haven't studied German at all, but Zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, it was post-war, and there was a global need to understand group conflict, obviously from the Nazis and discrimination and severe discrimination against the Jews and the genocide that took place there, and effects of racism and nationalism that took place. So the spirit of the place, it was in a European academic scene, especially around social psychology. So the great person, as discussed, was Henry Tafu, whose personal history and academic vision shaped this theory. So the motivation, Henry Tafu, he was a Holocaust survivor. He was deeply influenced by the consequences of group-based hatred. He wanted to understand prejudice, discrimination and conflict. Obviously to create better outcomes in the future by learning about what had transpired and what created the environment of such hatred and such conflict prior, and trying to create that understanding to prevent it from happening in the future. So it was a shift in psychology at the time because it was a response to individualistic theories, authoritarian personalities, and it was a shift towards social context and group dynamics. It was an extension of social psychology. So social identity theory came from individual-based models. The linear progression was from linear-based models to social identity models to what we see today, collective action research. It also links to theory and intergroup reconciliation. So contemporary extension. So these models in social identity theories relate to the present day, it evolved into social identity models of collective actions. So recent examples of this was the Me Too movement, guys. Everyone heard about the Me Too movement. Black Lives Matter, that was another big one that took off. So these campaigns all come from social identity theories, and explains why people protest or resist oppression based on shared group identities. So social identity helps us understand both conflict and cooperation within and between groups. And antecedents and consequences. So if the prerequisite was it was realistic conflict theory, authoritarian personality theories, and minimal group experiments. So a consequence of social identity theory was we could now explain prejudice, nationalism, and radicalisation, and its basis for modern diversity training, social movement psychology, and de-radicalisation programs. It also influenced theories like Simca and identity fusion. So that's social identity change. So social identity theory's relationship to frameworks in psychology that we know today, it rejects behaviourism. It's not stimulus-based or response-based on stimulus. It rejects individualism in personality theories, and it aligns with social constructivism and congruism to some extent, because research has shown that positive emotions can be experienced by the social engagement around people. So the people that you hang around and your social interconnections has neurological effects that create positive emotion. So it does relate to that as well. So it relates to functionalism, group cohesion, neuroscience, and it mirrors neurons and empathy research. So the scientific base of this social identity theory has strong empirical base. It's minimal group experiments, it's cross-cultural studies, and quantitative methods. It's falsifiable and testable. You can predict when group behaviour will become discriminatory or lead to collective active action. So the tested scientific approach we used and talked about through this teaching period, Stanovic's criteria for scientific approach, systematic empiricism, public knowledge and peer-reviewed research, and is it testable and falsifiable claims. So ways of knowing, it was experimental from TUFU studies, it's applied in fieldwork and protests, and it's theoretical synthesis. So its current status in psychology, it's still, as we discussed, still very active, and it's used in protest psychology, diversity and inclusion, conflict resolution, and radicalisation studies. It's extended into collective action, identity fusion, and radicalisation and de-radicalisation programs, and intergroup contact and reconciliation. So the references I used here is obviously the original article we looked at, Turner, Brown and TUFU in 1979, Social Comparisons and Group Interests and In-Group Favoritisms. That was published in the European Journal of Social Psychology in 1979, but also Dumont published a citation analysis of Henry's work on intergroup relations, and that was published in the International Journal of Psychology. And Stanberg and Zoman, Baseman, Spears' work there. So anyway, guys, I've got to wrap it up. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope you learn a little bit more about social identity theory. Thank you.